أناجي الحق في ليل بهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى أناجي الحق في ليل بهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum and welcome to Perspective. My name is Faizel Patel. Gaza's Ark is an activist boat which is intended to challenge the blockade by Israel. Now, to tell us more, I'm honored to have with me in studio two activists. One's name is Ehab Lotayev. He is an Egyptian-Canadian activist and a poet from Montreal and also a member of the steering committee of Gaza's Ark project. Assalamu alaikum, Ehab, and welcome to Perspective.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you for having me.
Another brother that I have, he is a member or an activist from the Palestinian Solidarity Alliance, and he's Ismail Mullah. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Perspective.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and it's good to be here as always.
Okay. Now, Ehab, for those who don't know, what is Gaza's Ark?
Gaza's Ark is the latest effort by the Freedom Flotilla Coalition to challenge the Israeli blockade of Gaza. The Freedom Flotilla Coalition had sent many boats in the past many years to challenge and attempt to break the Israeli blockade of Gaza from the outside in. Gaza's Ark is a continuation of those efforts, but with a different twist. This time, instead of having a boat come from the outside in, we are building a boat inside Gaza to carry Palestinian products from inside Gaza and take them to the outside world in an effort to challenge that blockade both politically and practically in a peaceful manner, of course, and to also create a sense of empowerment inside Gaza, where the people of Gaza, instead of them just waiting for boats to come to challenge the blockade from the outside, they are participating, and they will hopefully also be on board of Gaza's Ark as it sails out to challenge the blockade.
Okay. Now, what happened on 29th of April at 3:45 a.m. seems like a scene from a movie. You know, for our listeners and for our viewers, can you tell us what happened on that particular day?
At the dawn of that day, the guard on board received a call on his cell phone telling him to get off the boat because something's going to happen. He got off the boat, but then in a few minutes he thought that might be just a prank from somebody, so he went back on the boat, and at that moment an explosion happened. The investigations revealed that there were two explosive devices that were planted, connected to the bottom of the boat, and that those devices went off remotely, or went off without anybody directly firing them, and this caused a lot of damage to the boat. Thankfully, the boat did not sink, but it did sustain considerable damage, and right now it is in the process of starting the repairs for that damage.
Here you have an ark which got humanitarian aid, or it's got goods that's going to be trading with Gaza. You know, you're going to float. It's something that is good in society, something that is going to engage trade between Gaza. Who is responsible of doing such a dastardly act that'll go to such extents to blow up an ark which can bring nothing but good?
The investigations by the authorities in Gaza are not conclusive yet, so I will leave pointing the direct blame towards any entity at this point. But there are facts that cannot be denied. Everybody knows who is enforcing the blockade on Gaza. Everybody knows who wants this blockade to continue. The Freedom Flotilla boats since 2008 that were being prepared to sail to Gaza and challenge the blockade were sabotaged in Cyprus, in Greece, and in Turkey. So it's not difficult to conclude who could be behind these actions. I would like to add that in particular in the last couple of weeks before this terrorist attack on the boat happened, we had circulated a petition that was asking the world to put pressure on Israel not to deny or not to obstruct the path of Gaza's arc as it leaves Gaza. And this petition got a lot of support by members of parliament from all over the world, by Nobel laureates, by artists, by even high-ranking retired United Nations employees. So I guess Israel felt a lot of pressure coming from this Gaza's arc project at this point in time. And we had already announced the departure date, which was to be like in a month from now. Also, to add, Israel is under extreme pressure in the courts of law, both Turkish courts and the International Criminal Court, against the acts of violence and the murders it committed on the Mavi Marmara in the first Freedom Flotilla in 2010. So putting all those together, I think it's easy to know who does not want Gaza's arc to sail in its peaceful mission.
Ismail, coming to you, Ehab has told us about the Gaza's arc that's being built in Gaza. What is the PSA or South Africans doing to maybe enhance this project or to assist the project?
Yeah, thank you. What happens is generally we must understand that as South Africans and the process of liberation that we went through is and remains a source of inspiration for people throughout the world that are suffering in conflict zones. And the Palestinians themselves look upon South Africa as a role model. In view of that, the Palestine Solidarity Alliance is always looking out for campaigns that we feel have got great significance in uplifting the lives of Palestinians. And I met Ehab about 2 years ago at an event in Brazil, and that is where the whole project was presented to me. And obviously I was very excited, and I told him that I'm going to come back to South Africa and discuss it with our members here. And Alhamdulillah, we were very happy that South Africa took a liking towards the project. We've contributed funds in terms of contributing funds in terms of helping to rebuild the boat. And also we played a critical role in terms of the mini ark project. This was a project that was done in November to just create some hype around the project, where many arks were symbolically floated from the port of Gaza. There were 200 arks that were floated, and out of those 200, 50 were from South Africa. So we are there, and it is important in terms of perspective that the siege in Gaza is horrendous and is causing a tremendous amount of suffering in terms of getting aid, in getting basic necessities. So the ARC project is twofold. Number one, it is to show that the siege is illegal and needs to be broken. But the second aspect of it is to create some sort of environment where people become self-sufficient, provide an environment where there is a space for them to manufacture goods. And as Gaza's ARC, we are now taking the risk. So the suppliers get paid upfront. We understand that we in a very dangerous environment, and we know the risks that are involved. We wouldn't want our suppliers, who are already marginalized, to face any kind of financial constraints. So the risk here is being taken by the purchaser.
All right. Eb, I want to come back to you now. To build the Gaza's Ark, which organizations were involved? And obviously this requires money. How much money was involved in building this Ark?
We budgeted from the beginning around $300,000 to materialize the project, and this is proving to be a good estimate. That's where we were more or less going to be at when the project had finished. Now we need like maybe $30,000 or $40,000 more to cope with the damages that happened due to the explosion. The financing comes from all over the world, really, from individuals all over the world, many of them that are not affiliated with organizations, and a lot of finances also comes from Palestine support organizations like the PSA here, for example, that were very generous in contributing towards the project. Who is behind the project as a working team? We formed in 2011, we formed a steering, or early 2012, we formed a steering committee that includes individuals from many countries spanning across the world, and this is the committee that is responsible directly for the work, and we also have a project manager and a team in Gaza that are doing the work on the ground in Gaza. I have to add, all the campaigns and all the initiatives that were a part of the Freedom Flotilla Coalition that sent boats before, participated in boats, are fully behind this project and participate in it and support it in many different ways. I just want to elaborate on something that Ismail said, that buyers all around the world, co-ops, citizen groups, and some commercial buyers as well, already bought a lot of products from Gaza and paid for it. And this money goes directly, has nothing to do with the budget of the project. This money goes directly to the producers in Gaza to create much needed work and production in Gaza to help the people inside Gaza under these very difficult conditions that Israel is putting them in. So the project is a political activist project, but it's also a trade, not aid project, because people in Gaza, since the first time I visited Gaza in 2009, are saying we don't want to live on aid. Being forced to live in aid itself is something they want to avoid.
All right. We're going to go for a quick break. We'll be right back after this. Stay tuned.
أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى إلهي صرت في ظرف عصيب فاكشف البلوى فيا ربي.
Welcome back to Perspective. This evening we're speaking to Ehab Lotayev and also Ismail Mullah, and they activists for the Gaza Ark, which was unfortunately and sadly blown up on the 29th of April at about 3:45 a.m. Remember that you can interact with me by sending me a mail on Faizel at itvnetworks.tv or send me a tweet on at Faizi143. Now, before the break, we were speaking about the Ark being blown up, the Palestinian Solidarity Alliance involvement. We spoke about the cost of it. The question I want to ask is, why do you think that the person who blew up the Ark did not want to harm the night guard? Is it possible that the guard might be involved with certain amount of maybe sabotage or something?
Actually, not at all. It makes a lot of sense if we assume, and again, I like to keep it as an assumption till it's proven that Israel is involved, that they would not want to have more blood on their hands in such an incident. Because, as I mentioned earlier, they are in much hot water right now by the courts in Turkey and the International Criminal Court and by a lot of people in the international community because of the murders they committed aboard the Mavi Marmara in 2010, when it was also on its way to challenge the blockade of Gaza. So I think they are just limiting their losses by doing that. It is no excuse, and it's no act that we basically thank them for. But it's very understandable that they would want to damage the material, but avoid personal injury or death for sure. And I want to tell you that very, very clearly, the authorities in Gaza are taking this investigation extremely seriously. Over the past 2 weeks since the explosion happened till now, they are really conducting a very professional investigation, questioning to the nitty-gritty detail everybody who was involved or worked on the boat or was affiliated with the project, and there is no reason whatsoever to think of an act of internal sabotage or the like.
Okay. Ismail, I want to ask a question. We've seen the Palestinians struggle for many years now. There's a lot of pressure from certain segments of the community, the PSA, the Gaza's Ark. Unlike South Africa, where when we were in a state of apartheid, we seen massive pressure, sanctions, sporting sanctions. Do you think that the world is doing enough to put this pressure on Israel to say the Palestinian people need to be freed, Gaza need to be freed, stop stealing our land, stop occupying Palestinian land? Do you think, are we doing enough to create an impact?
Absolutely. I think we must also again remember that from where we started also from at a very grassroots level. Mm-hmm. It was amazing. A year ago, I met some activists that came from London, and we were having a PSA meeting in Lenasia. Yes. And he says it reminded him of activism that took place in London during apartheid years. Yes. Crowds were small, people were few. But you start at some point, and in order for you to gain momentum, you have to keep at it. So I think in terms of where we're at, in the last 7 years, there has been a tremendous amount of conscientization in regard to Palestine and the plight of Palestinians. The BDS movement, for argument's sake, internationally has grown. This year, we had BDS that was supported in over 75 cities throughout the world.
Yes.
So the momentum is on the up. However, there is no doubt that as activists, we understand that governments are very slow on this matter. We understand this. And we are therefore focusing our efforts more in regard to civil society movements, NGOs.
Right.
That is where the support base is coming from, and we are hoping that they, in sufficient numbers then, will get governments to change policy.
Right. Yeah, coming back to you, you are not a Palestinian. You focus on this Palestinian struggle. We have crisis in Sudan, we have crisis in Nigeria with the Boko Haram that's kidnapped so many girls now. We have also Afghanistan, well, across the world. Why specifically the Palestinian struggle?
I don't view myself as an activist for the Palestinian stuff in particular. I view myself as an activist for human rights in general, for justice. Of course, growing up in Egypt, this brings the Palestinian cause very close to my heart because I grew up with it. But I have actually, as an individual, I have been involved in the native struggle inside Canada itself, my second home. I have been involved in the sanctions on Iraq, or the anti-sanctions movement on the people of Iraq. I had been involved in many of those causes, but one is limited resources. We have our full-time work as well. We have our lives, our families. So at this point in my life, I am focusing on the Palestinian struggle because it also signifies a David versus Goliath struggle where there is so much indifference that makes you not able to sleep at night if you don't try to do something. And touching on the last point you were asking Ismail about, we have to realize that in a contrast, in a little bit of contrast between the situation of South Africa and of Palestine or Israel now, the Zionist lobby that is directly, emotionally, and financially very much connected to Israel and wills to support it to the last breath is a bit different than the forces that were supporting the South African apartheid regime. So we have a big struggle here in our hand, but we are, as Ismail said, we are making gains, and I think we'll continue to make gains as long as we're strong and determined.
Okay. Briefly, there's going to be a global day of action on the 31st of May, corresponding with the 4th anniversary of the Israeli occupation forces' brutal attack against the Freedom Flotilla in international waters, killing 9 Turkish activists. Briefly, tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, this was initiated by many Palestinian groups, among them the Freedom, or pro-Palestinian groups, among them the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, and was adopted in our meeting in London that I just arrived here from. And we hope that all around the world there will be actions on that day in support of the Palestinian people to keep the cause alive. I think everything goes in parallel, like the BDS effort, the Israeli Apartheid Week that happens all around the world, and such events commemorating landmarks in the Palestinian struggle are very important, and we have to all unite in making them visible and making them strong all over the world to bring pressure on Israel till it gives the Palestinians their full rights.
Okay, now you're also a poet. I love poetry. How is activism influence your poetry, and how do you see poetry influencing activism?
My poetry is a direct reaction, and sometimes to what I go through as an activist. Being an activist and being an emotionally connected activist who considers himself a citizen of the world, really, I get touched by so many actions that people do around the world to defend causes. In many cases, they have no direct connection to, and that is something that also helps me vent frustrations that build up sometimes when we face very difficult struggles in our activism.
Okay. Also, briefly again, you have a powerful poem about Rachel Corrie, a white activist killed by Israeli army in 2003. Maybe 1 or 2 lines from that poem?
Rachel Corrie was an inspiration, actually, and as soon as I heard her story and how she stood in front of a bulldozer that was trying to demolish a Palestinian home, the lines just came to my head right away. You conquered fear, the fear that makes men crack inside. Thank you, Rachel, because you taught us light. You gave us light. You showed us how to move forward. So People like that maybe don't realize how big contribution they're doing, but they really are making a difference in the world.
Ismail, coming back to you, what can South Africans do more to assist the people of Gaza and to make it easy, put more pressure on the Israeli government to ensure that we see a free Palestine one day?
Inshallah, yeah. You know, the thing is that I just wanted to touch earlier in regard to the Mavri Mamra that Ihab was talking about. It is very important, and we are very proud that as South Africans we had Khatija Davids that was on that boat on that fateful day.
Yes.
And Alhamdulillah, you know, we have the Muslim Lawyers Association that were assisting us in regard to getting some sort of justice for her. And I am happy to note that the National Prosecuting Authority, the South African National Prosecuting Authority, is now fighting on her behalf because they have realized that her rights as a South African citizen were violated on that particular day. So we have a great South African context in terms of flotillas, and we have a solidarity in terms of breaking the siege.
Okay.
In terms of us going forward, you know, there's activities that are planned throughout the year, and we ask our people to embrace these activities and come on board and assist us.
Okay. Now, this boat has been blown up, the ark has been blown up. Are you going to rebuild it? How far has it been rebuilt?
I don't like the word blown up because it was damaged. It was damaged. It was really, thankfully, not blown up.
You used the word explosion.
Yes. We asserted more or less the damage at this point.
Yes.
So the damage right now is something that would take about 2 months to repair. So of course it will delay our work, but I guess that's all a part of the struggle. It will cost us around $30,000 to $40,000 more than what we had already budgeted. But again, that's a part of the struggle. So the reconstruction or the repair process should start very, very soon these days as we speak, and hopefully by early by early fall, Northern Hemisphere fall, sometime late September, the ark will sail.
Okay. In 30 seconds, both of you, starting with Ihab, your final comments?
My final comments is that the struggle continues and our enemy is very much well-financed and well-resourced and has support from all over the world. We all should stand together, hand in hand, know each other, work together to be able to counter that and bring justice for the Palestinian people and never give up.
Okay. Ismail, your final comments in 30
similar.
seconds?
I think it is very important that we must never despair. I think we have made great strides and the way forward looks very, very positive. I will acknowledge the support that we've received from South Africa, and I will encourage those that are not on board to please embrace us in our campaigns, and inshallah we will witness very soon the liberation of our Muslim lands.
Okay. Ihab and Ismail, Jazakallah so much for your time, and inshallah we'll speak to you again.
Jazakallah for having us. Inshallah we'll meet again.
Unfortunately, we've come to the end of another edition of Perspective. Remember, you can tune in again next week, inshallah, where we bring you news making local, national, and international headlines, and even some interviews as well. Remember, you can interact with me by sending me a mail on Faizel at itvnetworks.tv or drop me a tweet on @Faizi143. From myself, Faizel Patel, and the great team here at ITV, fi amanillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أناجي الحق في ليل لهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى أناجي الحق في ليل لهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى صرت في ظرف عصيب فاكشف البلوى فيا ربي أنا عبد لرد الضيم لا يقوى